but a familiar face pulled her from her reverie. Dominic stood at the entrance, his expression a mix of surprise and relief. "Claire," he called, rushing toward her. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her heart racing. Dominic took a moment to catch his breath, his eyes filled with concern and admiration. "I came after you. I couldn't let you go without trying to understand why you left." Claire felt a rush of emotions, her defenses wavering. "I needed to escape the chaos, Dominic. I needed space to think." "I get that," he replied, his voice earnest. "But running away isn't going to solve our problems. We need to face them together." She stepped back, feeling overwhelmed. "Together? You didn't seem interested in being with me when I was back home." Dominic's expression shifted to one of frustration. "I was trying to figure out how to balance my family's expectations with what I want, and I thought you would understand." "Understand?" Claire echoed, her heart racing. "I don't want to be an afterthought, Dominic. I deserve to be your priority." "Claire, you are my priority," he insisted, taking a step closer. "I came all this way to find you because I realized that I can't let you go." Tension hung thick in the air as Claire's heart fought against her mind. She took a deep breath, searching his eyes for honesty. "What do you want, Dominic?" He took her hands in his grip warm and steady. "I want you, Claire. But I need to figure out how to stand up to my father and make my own choices. Will you give me that chance?" The sincerity in his voice melted her defenses, and for the first time, she saw the vulnerability behind his bravado. "If we're going to do this, you have to promise to fight for us," Claire said, her voice trembling with emotion. "I promise," he replied, determination shining in his eyes. The days that followed were a whirlwind of rediscovery and connection for Claire and Dominic. They explored Paris together, visiting the Sacré-Cœur, strolling along the Seine, and sharing intimate conversations in cozy bistros. One afternoon, while sitting on a park bench, Dominic turned to Claire, a serious expression on his face. "I've been thinking a lot about my family and what they want for me." Claire felt her stomach knot. "And I've decided to have a conversation with my father when I get back," he said. "I'm going to tell him that I want to make my own choices." Claire's heart swelled with hope. "Really? That's a big step." Dominic nodded. "I know it won't be easy, but I can't live my life for him anymore. I want to be with you, Claire. I want to fight for us." She smiled, feeling a rush of warmth. "I'm proud of you. You deserve to be happy." As they shared a lingering gaze, Dominic leaned in and pressed his lips to hers. The kiss was soft, yet filled with the promise of new beginnings. Claire felt a renewed sense of hope, as if the weight of uncertainty was finally lifting. After a week in Paris, the time came for Claire and Dominic to return to New York. The flight was filled with anticipation and anxiety. They both knew that the real challenge awaited them back home. Upon arriving, Dominic suggested they meet with his father to confront the looming shadow over their relationship. "We can do this together," he said, taking Claire's hand as they walked toward his family's estate. As they entered the grand living room, Claire felt a wave of intimidation wash over her. The lavish decor and imposing portraits of Dominic's ancestors loomed over them. Dominic's father, a distinguished man with a piercing gaze, looked up from his newspaper. "Dominic, you're back. I trust you've made some important decisions." Dominic took a deep breath, standing tall. "Actually, Dad, I have. I want to talk about my future." Claire's heart raced as she watched the exchange. "And who is this?" his father asked, eyeing Claire with skepticism. "This is Claire," Dominic said firmly, "and she's a big part of my future." His father raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed. "Your future is about family and legacy, Dominic, not distractions." Claire felt the urge to defend herself, but Dominic squeezed her hand, grounding her. "Dad, Claire is not a distraction. She challenges me, inspires me, and I won't let you dictate my choices anymore." His father's expression hardened. You think you can just walk away from the family expectations? This is naive. I think it's naive to think I can be happy living a life that isn't my own, Dominic replied, his voice unwavering. I need to follow my heart. And right now, that's with Claire. The confrontation with Dominic's father was intense. After a long pause, his father finally spoke, his tone icy. You'll regret this decision, Dominic. You have a responsibility to our family legacy. Dominic's heart raced. I can't live for your legacy anymore. I need to forge my own path. You'll be making a mistake that could ruin your future, his father warned, rising from his chair. If you choose her over your family, you're on your own. Claire felt a rush of fear as she watched the confrontation unfold. Dominic, maybe we should go, she suggested, but he shook his head resolute. No, I won't back down now, he said, turning back to his father. I love Claire, and I won't let you dictate my happiness. His father's expression hardened. Then you'll be disowned. Maybe that's a risk I'm willing to take, Dominic replied, his voice steady. Claire felt a surge of pride for him, but uncertainty tugged at her heart. She knew this decision would change everything. As they left the estate, Claire turned to Dominic. Are you okay? I will be, he said, running a hand through his hair. It's just a lot to process. In the following weeks, Dominic and Claire faced the fallout of their confrontation. Dominic's father had cut him off financially, leaving them to navigate their new reality without the privileges they had once taken for granted. While they struggled initially, they quickly learned to rely on each other. Claire took on extra work, diving into projects she was passionate about, while Dominic explored new opportunities in his field. One evening, as they sat in their small apartment, Claire smiled at Dominic, a spark of hope in her eyes. We might not have much, but we have each other. Dominic nodded, his gaze softening. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. They shared a quiet moment, the weight of their choices finally beginning to lift. Claire felt empowered, knowing they were building something real together. We'll figure this out, Dominic said, a hint of determination in his voice. I won't let my father's expectations dictate my life anymore. You're stronger than you think, Claire replied, her heart swelling with admiration. Together we can conquer anything. As they settled into their new routine, Claire realized they couldn't move forward without addressing the shadows of their past. One evening, while they were cooking dinner together, she turned to Dominic. I think we need to talk about everything that happened with your father, she said gently. It's a part of our journey. Dominic nodded, taking a deep breath. You're right. I can't keep pretending it doesn't affect us. Claire set down the spatula and looked at him, her expression serious. I want to support you, but I need to know you're willing to fight for this. For us. I am, he replied, his voice firm. But I also need to find closure with my family. I can't keep running away from them. They agreed to confront Dominic's family together, acknowledging that it would be challenging but necessary for their future. The next weekend, they returned to his family's estate, hearts racing as they approached the door. Dominic knocked, and they waited in tense silence. After a moment, his father opened the door, surprise crossing his face. What do you want? Dominic stood tall. I want to talk. About everything. As they stepped into the grand foyer, the weight of the past felt almost tangible. The opulence of the estate contrasted sharply with the uncertainty that loomed over them. Dominic took a deep breath, bracing himself for the confrontation ahead. Let's sit down, his father said, leading them into the formal sitting room where family portraits adorned the walls. The atmosphere was heavy with unspoken words. Dominic started, Dad, I want to clarify something. I love Claire, and she is part of my life. I can't continue to ignore that. His father's gaze flickered to Claire, scrutinizing her with a mixture of skepticism and disapproval. And you think this girl is a suitable partner for you? She doesn't fit into our world, Dominic. That's exactly the point, Dominic replied. frustration creeping into his voice. "I don't want to live in a world dictated by your expectations. I want to carve my own path." Claire felt a surge of courage. "Mr. Harrison, I understand that I come from a different background, but I genuinely care about Dominic. I want to support him in whatever he chooses." His father crossed his arms, his expression hardening. "Support? You think you can just waltz into our lives and change everything?" Dominic stepped forward, his voice unwavering. "You're missing the point, Dad. It's not about changing our lives. It's about choosing my own path. If that means distancing myself from the family business, then so be it." The conversation continued, the tension thickening with every exchange. Dominic's father attempted to assert his authority. "You're asking for a lot. I've spent my life building this legacy for you." "Perhaps that legacy shouldn't come at the expense of your son's happiness," Claire replied, her voice steady. "You may not see it now, but he could thrive without the weight of those expectations." The room fell silent as Dominic's father considered her words. The tension hung in the air, but Claire could sense a crack in his facade. "Maybe you're right," he finally said, his voice low, "but it's hard for me to accept." Dominic took a step closer to his father. "I'm not asking you to accept it all at once. Just give me a chance to show you that I can make my own choices." As the conversation progressed, Dominic's father began to show signs of understanding, though the path to reconciliation was still fraught with challenges. They spent hours discussing their differing perspectives, and slowly, the rigid walls began to crumble. "I've always wanted what was best for you, Dominic," his father admitted, his voice tinged with regret. "But I realize now that I may have lost sight of what you truly want." Dominic felt a wave of relief wash over him. "I appreciate that, Dad. It means a lot to me." Claire smiled, sensing a shift in the room. "Maybe we can work towards finding a compromise. Family doesn't have to be about control. It can be about support and love." His father nodded slowly, deep in thought. "I suppose I need to learn to let go a little. It's hard for me to see my son as an adult sometimes." Dominic smiled, relief flooding through him. "It's okay, Dad. We can figure this out together, but it starts with understanding that my happiness matters." As they continued to talk, the conversation gradually shifted from tense confrontation to hopeful dialogue. The prospect of rebuilding their relationship began to take shape. After their heart-to-heart, Claire and Dominic left the estate feeling a renewed sense of hope. While the road ahead was still uncertain, they had taken a significant step toward understanding and acceptance. In the weeks that followed, they worked together to build a life that reflected their values and dreams. Dominic continued exploring career opportunities that excited him, while Claire pursued her creative passions. They supported each other through the ups and downs, growing stronger as a couple. One evening, as they sat on their balcony overlooking the city, Claire turned to Dominic. "I can't believe how far we've come," Dominic smiled, wrapping his arms around her. "It's only the beginning. I know we'll face challenges, but I'm ready to tackle them together." "I feel so lucky to have you," Claire said, her voice soft. "I never knew love could be this fulfilling." Dominic leaned in, kissing her gently. "You've opened my eyes to a world beyond expectations. I'll always fight for us." As they embraced under the starlit sky, Claire felt an overwhelming sense of belonging. She knew they would navigate whatever came their way, hand in hand. As months passed, Claire and Dominic continued to thrive both individually and as a couple. They learned to celebrate their victories, no matter how small, and supported each other through setbacks. One day, as they were walking through a local market, Dominic stopped and pulled Claire aside. "I've been thinking," he began, a hint of excitement in his voice. "What's on your mind?" Claire asked, curious. "I want to start my own venture, something that reflects my values and allows me to make a difference. And I want you by my side," he said, looking into her eyes. Claire's heart raced at the prospect. "That sounds amazing. What do you have in mind?" "Something focused on sustainability and community. I want to create a space where people can come together, share ideas, and build connections. A place that reflects both our dreams." Tears welled in Claire's eyes as she felt a surge of pride and love for him. "That sounds incredible. I'd love to help in any way I can." Dominic grinned, pulling her into a warm embrace. "I couldn't do it without you. You inspire me to be better every day." After months of hard work, planning, and collaboration, Dominic's vision came to life. They opened the doors to their new venture, a community hub that focused on sustainability and creativity, offering workshops, local products, and a welcoming atmosphere. On opening day, Claire stood beside Dominic, both filled with anticipation and nervous energy. The space was alive with people, laughter, and excitement. As the ribbon was cut, Claire looked around, feeling a sense of accomplishment. "We did it," she whispered to Dominic. "We sure did," he replied, his eyes shining with pride. "And I couldn't have done it without you." They spent the day mingling with guests, sharing their story, and soaking in the success of their hard work. The warmth of community surrounded them, a testament to their journey and resilience. Later, as the sun began to set, they stepped outside to take in the moment. The city lights twinkled, and Claire turned to Dominic, her heart full. "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" Dominic nodded, wrapping his arm around her shoulder. "Absolutely. Together we can achieve anything." As the months turned into years, Claire and Dominic continued to build their lives together. Their venture became a cornerstone of the community, and their love only deepened with each challenge they faced. One evening, while sitting on their balcony, gazing at the city skyline, Claire turned to Dominic, a playful smile on her face. "Remember when we thought we'd never find our way?" Dominic chuckled, a soft glow of affection in his eyes. "It feels like a lifetime ago. We've come so far since then." Claire leaned against him, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. "I'm so proud of us. Not just for the business, but for how we fought for our happiness and built a life that reflects who we are." Dominic nodded, his expression serious. "I wouldn't change a thing. You've taught me the true meaning of love, support, growth, and facing challenges together." They shared a quiet moment, the weight of their journey settling into a comfortable silence. After a while, Dominic turned to her, his voice a mixture of warmth and sincerity. "Claire, there's something I want to ask you." Her heart raced as she met his gaze, sensing the significance of the moment. "What is it?" Dominic took a deep breath, reaching into his pocket to pull out a small velvet box. "I know we've faced our share of struggles, but through it all you've been my rock. I can't imagine my life without you." Claire's breath caught in her throat as he opened the box to reveal a beautiful ring, glistening in the fading sunlight. "Will you marry me?" Tears of joy filled Claire's eyes as she looked at the ring, then back at him. "Yes." 1,000 times yes. Dominic slipped the ring onto her finger, their laughter filling the air as they embraced. "I promise to always fight for us," he whispered, holding her close. As they stood together, under the stars with the city below them, Claire knew that they had truly created something special. A love that thrived against all odds, filled with hope, passion, and resilience. Months later, as Claire and Dominic stood hand in hand at their wedding, they exchanged vows surrounded by friends, family, and the community they had built together. The atmosphere was filled with love and joy, a true reflection of their journey. "We promise to support each other in our dreams and face whatever life throws our way," Claire said, her voice steady despite the emotions swelling within her. "And to always remember what brought us together," Dominic added, his gaze never leaving hers. As they sealed their vows with a kiss, the crowd erupted in cheers, and Claire felt a wave of happiness wash over her. Their love story had weathered storms and blossomed in unexpected ways, and now they stood at the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with love, laughter, and a bright future. As they danced under the stars later that evening, Claire whispered to Dominic, "I can't wait to see what our life holds." Dominic smiled, holding her close. Whatever it is, I know we'll face it together. And with that, they embraced the future, knowing that their love, tested and true, would guide them through whatever adventures lay ahead.